Happy Monday, August 31st to all of you in my 7th period research and critical thinking class. I'm happy to have you here, those of you at home and those of you in the class. So sadly, over the weekend, we lost a very fine actor and a wonderful role model to many of us, and his name is Chadwick Boseman. And here is a quote that he made, and I'd like you to read along with me as I read it to you. He said, "I don't care what your future is, but if you're willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory, then you will not regret it." So basically he's talking about persevering. Don't take the easy way out. In 2018, he gave a commencement speech at his alma mater, which happened to be Howard University, a historically black university. And he also spoke on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. We're going to watch two short clips, one at Howard and one on The Tonight Show, featuring this fine gentleman. We'll start with the commencement speech that he gave. Please listen carefully.
Across this yard on what seemed to be a random day, my head down, lost in my own world of issues, like many of you do daily. I'm almost at the center of the yard. I raised my head and Muhammad Ali was walking towards me. Time seemed to slow down as his eyes locked on mine and opened wide. He's raised his fist into a quintessential guard. I was game to play along with him, to act as if I was a worthy opponent. What an honor to be challenged by the GOAT, the greatest of all time, for a brief moment. His face was as serious as if I were Frazier in The Thriller in Manila. His movements were flashes of a past greater than I can imagine. His security let the joke play along for a second before they ushered him away. And I walked away, floating like a butterfly. I walked away amused at it, amused at myself, amused at life for this moment that almost no one would ever believe. I walked away light, ready to take on the world. The dynamics of positive and negative seem to exist in extremes.
I told you, I'm the real champion. I told you, I'm the champion of the world. All of it now.
Throughout ancient times, institutions of learning have been built on top of hills to convey that great struggle is required to achieve degrees of enlightenment. Each of you had your own unique difficulties with the hill. You know, sometimes your grades don't give a real indication of what your greatness might be. You would rather find purpose than a job or a career. Purpose crosses disciplines. Purpose is an essential element of you. It is the reason you are on the planet at this particular time in history. Your very existence is wrapped up in the things you are here to fulfill. Whatever you choose for a career path, remember the struggles along the way are only meant to shape you for your purpose. Or some of you went through something traumatic. You made it to the top of the hill, but not without scars and bruises. When completing a long climb, one first experiences dizziness, disorientation, and shortness of breath due to the high altitude. But once you become accustomed to the climb, your mind opens up to the tranquility of the triumph. Oftentimes, the mind is flooded with realizations that were for some reason harder to come to when you were at a lower elevation. At this moment, Most of you need some realizations because right now you have some big decisions to make. I don't know what your future is, but if you are willing to take the harder way, the more complicated one, the one with more failures at first than successes, the one that has ultimately proven to have more meaning, more victory, more glory. As is often the case, those that follow most often enjoy the results of the progress you gain. Sometimes you need to get knocked down before you can really figure out what your fight is. Everything that you fought for was not for yourself. It was for those that come after. Suddenly I thought of Ali in the middle of the yard in his elder years, drawing from his victories and his losses. At that moment, I realized something new about the greatness of Ali and how he carried his crown. I realized that he was transferring something to me on that day. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter in me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me. He was transferring the spirit of the fighter to me.
We need to keep in mind always that life isn't going to be easy, and some people are going to judge us before they get to know us. Maybe it's because of our gender, maybe it's because of our religion or lack of religion, and maybe it's because of our race. We just need to know that we have to persevere. He played Jackie Robinson in the movie 42, which you saw clips from in that speech. And of course, we see him as the Black Panther. So let's continue to remember life isn't easy, but there are people along the way who will be there to help us. Watch this clip from The Tonight Show.
Look at you here. This is like, first of all, I mean, why are you doing this, dude? You know you're gonna lose this eventually, right? You can't. Now you gotta maintain this, and you gotta take your shirt off and everything.
You gotta remember when, you know.
Remember when.
Yeah, you gotta remember when.
That's true, yeah. It's a good time to be right now. In the article, there's a great thing that you talked about you studying acting. You got to study in Oxford? In London?
Right. Yeah, I did an exchange while I was at Howard over the summer. A group of us from Howard. Felicia Rashad actually she basically taught a class once a week while we were at Howard, and then she wanted us to do this exchange, and so she got, I didn't have money to pay for this, and so she got a few of her friends together, and they paid for us to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you found out who one of the friends was.
Yeah, I didn't know at first. Like when I came back, and I've basically been holding this secret my whole career. When I came back, I got a beneficiary letter, and it said Denzel Washington paid for you. And I was like, what? Yeah,
And that's what I did. How cool is that?
Yeah. So
awesome.
So I never wanted to like ever say that until I met him, and I was doing that Rolling Stone interview. And he asked me about it, and I was like, I think I can say it now. I think I can. I made it. I made it to the point where he's not gonna think I'm trying to get something from him by saying it.
Yeah.
And the weird thing that happened is, I did the interview, and just before the movie came out, we did the New York premiere. He came, and I met him before the article came out. So I actually, lived up to what I originally wanted to do. It was amazing.
And what'd you say to him?
He was like, well, I haven't met you yet. And I said, yeah, I got to tell you something. You paid for me to go to school. He said, oh, so that's why I'm here. You owe me money. I came to class.
That's great.
Oh, man.
That's
amazing.
great, man. Well, the movie is a phenomenon. I mean, obviously it's based on a Marvel movie, it's a comic book movie, but it's bigger than that. I mean, what do you think people are taking politically from this?
I mean, it's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And, you know, you always get what you bring to a viewing. Part of it was been very interesting is you know, I would say the strength of the women in this movie, especially at this particular time. While the Me Too Time's Up movement is happening, this adds another layer to that conversation, and a very, very good layer to the conversation. So I think people are really, really responding to that part of Wakanda. I think the relationship between Killmonger and T'Challa, which is basically, you know, an African American trying to connect to his roots, and that conversation is one that I think is happening on a platform that you wouldn't normally see it happen. You know, those are conversations that happen behind closed doors. So you see Africans viewing African Americans in a different way, and African Americans viewing themselves in Africa in a different way, and everyone else is privy to that conversation. And so I think that is a very, very healthy thing for people to become more specific about their identity, and encouraging it. And in most cases, you see people trying to water down things when you talk about diversity, as opposed to embracing what they actually are. And so I think that has been, you know, very refreshing and fulfilling.
Isn't that great? That's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I want to show everyone a clip. Here's Chadwick Boseman and Letitia Wright. Man, oh man, she was fantastic.
Right.
Oh yeah, Letitia Wright in Black Panther in theaters now. Check this out.
Let's go! Hey, look at your suit. You've been taking bullets, charging it up with kinetic energy.
Pull around the truck. Where'd he go?
That's how you do it.
On and on and on.
So that was Chadwick Boseman's message to us, and hopefully we can remember him fondly, not just as a great actor, but as a wonderful human being. Now, for all of us, if you are here in person, you're going to get out a sheet of loose leaf paper, and if you're at home, you're going to go into Google Docs, and you're going to all put your proper heading, which will be your full name, today's date, August 31st, 2020, and this class, which is critical thinking. You're going to put the word bellwork at the top center, and you're going to answer this question in 50 words or more. And the question is, have you ever felt that you or someone you know were a victim of racism or another type of prejudice? And explain. So have you ever personally felt that you, or have you heard of someone that you know being a victim of racism? And racism is when people prejudge you due to just your race. They assume you're a certain race and they judge you. Or another form of prejudice, which could be your gender, it could be your religion or lack of religion, it could be where you're born, it could be an accent with which you speak. But have you ever felt like someone judged you due to any of these things? And explain. Or someone else that you know. and explain. I'm going to put on our timer, and we're going to listen to a little bit of music while we're working. Make sure it's not too loud. And don't forget that if you are going to be turning it in Google Docs, make sure you put it into the assignment that is there. And I'll be collecting from the ladies and gentlemen who are in the classroom. All right. Whoops. The music did not start. I did not hit play. Too loud. I had a feeling. There we go. All right. Commence writing. Oh, and time is finished. Hopefully you were able to get your writing done. So, we're going to pause and discuss if you have ever felt this sort of feeling of racism or prejudice. Get ready to participate. Okay, that was very good. Glad to hear from each of you. And now, of course, we're going to continue and we're going to be discussing similar issues. Last week we talked about pandemic. That's one of the issues facing our country right now. And now we're going to talk about this issue, the issue of racism and prejudice. We'll pause it for just one moment. So, I think it falls under the ideal of respect. If we could just respect one another, no matter our gender, no matter our race, no matter our religion, no matter where we come from, or whether or not we have an accent of any kind, I think the world would be a whole lot happier. We're going to look at this video, and it's from Vocabulary, and it's about respect. Okay, respect, vocabulary. Hopefully it's not too loud.
I'm quite cool, I live in Ghana. Check out my room, big closet. Cool clothes, money to deposit. If I want it, then I get it, no problem. Respect me, even if you don't like me. Me respect you, unlikely. Bring me food, bow down. Pass the remote right now. Clean my feet and my crown. Better obey when I'm around. To my sister, hurry now. No conversation, get out. Gotta leave at 3 o'clock. To the market in a crowd. My mom says I can't go alone, but this kid does anything he wants. Put on a robe and hit the door. You won't believe what I saw. People bumping into me left and right. Not one apology, that ain't right. Hello, can't you see me? No response, couldn't believe it. Bought plantain chips for a snack. Cashier saw my sit and laughed. When it comes to respect, follow the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That means treat people like you want to be treated. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, everybody needs it. I ran back to the condo. Now I know what it feels like to be treated with no respect. It's really not right, no. Never again will I make a person feel like I'm better than them. No way. I know it's not all about me. It's a new day. Mom, do you need help with the groceries? I'll walk the dog when you're overseas. I'll make eye contact when you talk to me. I won't put you down when you talk to me. I won't exclude you because community is a whole lot better when it's you and me. If you need space, I will oblige. I won't get in the way. I'll step to the side. If I hurt your feelings, I apologize and appreciate what's unique in you and I. When it comes to respect, follow the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That means treat people like you want to be treated. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, everybody needs it.
Well, isn't that the truth? Everybody needs it. This is not a new problem. This is not a new issue. This issue of respecting someone. It goes way back, centuries, perhaps thousands of years. This woman here's name is Jane Elliott. She's a teacher. Let's look at her quote, if you would. You are not born racist. You are born into a racist society. And like anything else, if you can learn it, you can unlearn it. But some people choose not to unlearn it because they're afraid they'll lose power if they share with other people. We're afraid of sharing power. That's what it's all about. So Jane Elliott has been teaching for a very long time. And there's this documentary on PBS, Frontline, called A Class Divided. And please look with me, if you would, at this paragraph underneath the link to the movie. The day after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, Jane Elliott, a teacher in a small, all-white Iowa town, divided her third grade class into blue-eyed and brown-eyed groups and gave them a daring lesson in discrimination. This is the story of that lesson, its lasting impact on the children, and its enduring power 30 years later. So we're going to watch this video. They may use a word that we don't ever use, which starts with an N, but you should never use this language yourself, even if you happen to be African American, because when you use it around others who are not African American, it's like you're giving these others permission to also use that kind of language. And no one should ever use this language. Let me be sure it's at a good volume so we all can hear it. So this is a documentary about this woman's class, and they come back together years after they first conducted the first classes.
27 years ago, when civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, grief and frustration erupted in America's cities. And far away in Iowa, one third-grade teacher knew she had to do something.
The shooting of Martin Luther King could not just be talked about and explained away. There was no way to explain this to little third graders in Riceville, Iowa. I knew it was time to deal with this in a concrete way, not just talk about it, because we had talked about racism since the first day of school.
This is a fact. Blue-eyed people are better than brown-eyed people.
It was a daring experiment in prejudice.
I watched wonderful, thoughtful children turn into nasty, vicious, discriminating little third graders.
Can one teacher in one day change the lives of her students forever? Tonight, a class divided.
August 1984. A high school reunion brings some 50 former students to Riceville, Iowa. 11 of them, some with their spouses and children, arrive early for a special reunion with their former third-grade teacher, Jane Elliott.
And this is my husband to you. This is my husband, Tom. Tom, Brian.
How are you?
Oh, he's fine. I'm just Roy Wilson.
I made it.
You darling. Oh,
Been a long
Roy.
time.
Oh,
Been here
I'm so
14
glad
years.
to see you.
I didn't think I would. How are you doing?
Fine.
Long time since I've seen you.
Where are your little ones? They're at home with Mom.
It's coming down.
And this is your husband, Mr. Greg Brown. Greg Brown. My nice
14 years earlier, when they were students in her third-grade classroom, ABC News filmed a 2-day exercise for a documentary, The Eye of the Storm. Now, at their request, they will see that film again and relive the experience of her unique lesson in discrimination.
This is a special week. Does anybody know what it is? National Brotherhood Week. What's brotherhood?
Be kind to your brothers. Be kind.
Okay, be kind to your brothers.
Like you would like to be treated.
Treat everyone the way you would like to be treated. Treat everyone as though he was your brother. And is there anyone in this United States that we do not treat as our brothers?
Yes.
Who?
Yeah.
The black people. Who else? Absolutely, the Indians. And when many people see a black person or a yellow person or a red person, what do they think?
Look at that. Dumb people.
They look at the dumb people. What else do they think sometimes? What kinds of things do they say about black people?
Call them niggers.
In the city, many places in the United States, how are black people treated? How are Indians treated? How are people who are of a different color than we are treated?
Like they're part of this world. They don't get anything in this world.
Why is that?
Because they're different color.
You think you know how that would feel to be judged by the color of your skin? Do you think you do? No, I don't think you'd know how that felt unless you had been through it, would you? It might be interesting to judge people today by the color of their eyes. Would you like to try this? Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Since I'm the teacher and I have blue eyes, I think maybe the blue-eyed people should be on top the first day. I mean, the blue-eyed people are the better people in this room. Oh, yes, they are. Blue-eyed people are smarter than brown-eyed people.
My dad isn't that stupid.
Is your dad brown-eyed?
Yeah.
One day you came to school and you told us that he kicked you.
He did.
Do you think a blue-eyed father would kick his son?
Yeah. My
dad's blue-eyed. He's never kicked me. Greg's dad is blue-eyed. He's never kicked him. Rex's dad is blue-eyed. He's never kicked him. This is a fact. Blue-eyed people are better than brown-eyed people. Are you brown-eyed or blue-eyed?
No.
Why are you shaking your head?
I don't know.
Are you sure that you're right? Why? What makes you so sure that you're right?
I don't know.
The blue-eyed people get 5 extra minutes of recess, while the brown-eyed people have to stay in. The brown-eyed people do not get to use the drinking fountain. You'll have to use the paper cups. You brown-eyed people are not to play with the blue-eyed people on the playground because you are not as good as blue-eyed people. Well, the brown-eyed people in this room today are going to wear collars so that we can tell from a distance what color your eyes are. On page 127. 127. Is everyone ready? Everyone but Laurie. Ready, Laurie? She's a brown-eyed. You'll begin to notice today that we spend a great deal of time waiting for brown-eyed people. The yardstick's gone. Well, okay. I don't see the yardstick. Do you?
Hey, just like you better keep that on your desk so if the brown-eyed people get out of hand.
Oh! You think if the brown-eyed people get out of hand, that would be the thing to use? Who goes first to lunch? The blue-eyed people. No brown-eyed people go back for seconds. Blue-eyed people may go back for seconds. Brown-eyed people do not.
Brown-eyed.
Don't you know?
They're not smart.
Is that the only reason? It might take too much. Okay, quietly.
And it seemed like when we were down on the bottom, everything bad was happening to us. The way they treated you, you felt like you didn't even want to try to do anything. It seemed like Mrs. Elliot was taking our best friends away from us.
What happened at recess? Were 2 of you boys fighting?
Yeah, Russell and John.
What happened, John?
Russell called me names and I hit him in the gut.
What did he call you?
Brown eyes.
Did you call him brown eyes?
They always call us that. Yeah. Get all of the always call us brown eyes. They say, come here, brown eyes. And they were calling us blue eyes. I wasn't. Sandy and Donna were. Yeah.
What's wrong with being called brown eyes?
It means that we're stupider. Well, not that, but... Oh, that's just the same way as other people people niggers.
Is that the reason you hit him, John? Did it help? Did it stop him? Did it make you feel better inside? Make you feel better inside? Did it make you feel better to call him Brown Eyes? Why do you suppose you call him Brown Eyes?
Right, because he has brown eyes.
Is that the only reason? He didn't call him Brown Eyes yesterday, and he had brown eyes yesterday. Didn't he?
Because we get started. Yeah, ever since you put those blueprints on there. Tease him. Kind of tease him.
Oh, is this teasing?
No. Well, he did it.
Were you doing it for fun, to be funny, or were you doing it to be mean? I don't know. Don't ask me. Did anyone laugh at you when you did it?
I watched what had been marvelous, cooperative, wonderful, thoughtful children turn into nasty, vicious, discriminating little third graders in a space of 15 minutes.
Yesterday, I told you that brown-eyed people aren't as good as blue-eyed people. That wasn't true. I lied to you yesterday. The truth is that brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people. Russell, where are your glasses?
I forgot him.
You forgot them, and what color are your eyes?
Blue.
Susan Ginder has brown eyes. She didn't forget her glasses. Russell Ring has blue eyes, and what about his glasses?
He forgot him.
He forgot them. Yesterday we were visiting, and Greg said, "Boy, I like to hit my little sister as hard as I can. That's fun." What does that tell you about blue-eyed people?
They're naughty. In fact, they fight a lot.
The brown-eyed people may take off their collars, and each of you may put your collar on a blue-eyed person. The brown-eyed people get 5 extra minutes of recess. You blue-eyed people are not allowed to be on the playground equipment at any time. You blue-eyed people are not to play with the brown-eyed people. Brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people. They're smarter than blue-eyed people. And if you don't believe it, look at Brian. Do blue-eyed people know how to sit in a chair? Very sad. Very, very sad. Who can tell me what contraction should be in the first sentence? Go to the board and write it, John. Come on, let's do it again. Loosen up. Up, up, up. Come on. That's better. Now, do you know how to make a W? Okay, write the contraction for we are. Now that's beautiful writing. Is that better?
Yeah.
Brown-eyed people learn fast, don't they?
Yeah.
Boy, do brown-eyed people learn fast. Very good. Greg, what did you do with that cup? Will you please go and get that cup and put your name on it and keep it at your desk? Blue-eyed people are wasteful. Okay, you want to be timed this morning?
Yeah. A.
I use Orton Gillingham Phonics. We use the card pack. And the children, the brown-eyed children, were in the low class the first day, and it took them 5.5 minutes to get through the card pack. The second day, it took them 2.5 minutes. The only thing that had changed was the fact that now they were superior people.
I thought we were going to get
You went faster than I ever had anyone go through the card pack. Why couldn't you get them yesterday?
We had those collars on.
You think the collars kept you
just keep thinking about those collars.
Oh.
I could get rolling around.
Oh, and you couldn't think as well with the collars on. 4 minutes and 18 seconds.
I know we weren't going to make it.
How long did it take you yesterday?
3 minutes.
3 3 minutes. How long did it take you today?
4 minutes and 18 seconds.
What happened?
One down.
Why? What were you thinking of?
This.
I hate today.
You do, I hate too.
Because I'm blue-eyed.
See, I am too.
There's nothing, it's not funny, it's not fun, it's not pleasant. This is a filthy, nasty word called discrimination. We're treating people a certain way because they are different from the rest of us. Is that fair?
No.
Nothing fair about it. We didn't say this was going to be a fair day, did we?
No.
And it isn't. It's a horrid day. Okay, you ready? What did you people who are wearing blue collars now find out today?
Oh, you don't.
I know what they felt like yesterday.
I did too.
How did they feel yesterday?
Down.
Like a dog on a leash.
Yeah.
It feels like a chain
them up
wherever you go.
into prison. Like you're chaining them up into prison. Like and you're throwing the key away.
Should the color of some other person's eyes have anything to do with how you treat them?
No.
All right, then should the color of their skin?
No.
Should you judge people by the color of their skin?
No.
You're going to say that today and this week and probably all the time you're in this room. You'll say, no, Mrs. Ellie. Every time I ask that question.
No.
Then,
No, Mrs. Elliot.
when you see a black man or an Indian or someone walking down the street, are you going to say, look at that silly looking thing?
No, honey.
Does it make any difference whether their skin is black or white?
No.
Or yellow?
No.
Or red?
No.
Is that how you decide whether people are good or bad?
No.
Is that what makes people good or bad?
No.
Let's take these collars off.
Wait. You'd have to sort
Here, Mr. Valley, you can. What would you like to do with them?
throw them away.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Don't eat them like
Now you know a little bit more than you knew at the beginning of this week.
Yes. A lot.
Do you know a little bit more than you wanted to?
Yes.
This isn't an easy way to learn this, is it?
No. Yes.
Oh, well, you
So these children experienced firsthand what it felt like to be discriminated against, what it felt like to not be respected for something that they couldn't help, the color of their eyes. This week we're going to be discussing respect, prejudice, racism, and I want you to think about how you treat other people, including the people in our lives at school, at home, in your community. And I hope that we find out that we're all a little bit more wise and a little bit more sensitive to what we do on a daily basis. Have a blessed day.